shot there, and crowds coming down the main avenue via della Conciliazione. There are security checks, of course, which is one reason that the crowds may kind of trickle in more than be running into the square. Unfortunately, I mean, it's absolutely necessary nowadays. So
sure, you could see them coming from the security now.
So there's a metal check and all, so we have to ensure the safety and security there in the square. So.
Well, and as we're seeing all this jubilation and excitement, sadly, we have to say goodbye to
I'm
Liz.
like those sports stars. They keep quitting and then coming back. I mean, you'll probably see me back in like another 15 minutes.
Yeah, you are welcome to come back.
Or a bit like the seagull coming in and around the chimney.
I really like the sports star comparison better, but I'll handle seagull. Okay. Thank you so much once again. I'm so happy we got to share this moment together.
Thank you for being here with us.
Well, and as Liz mentioned before, when we were talking about what is happening now, what takes so long, I mean, according to John Paul II, I believe his Apostolic Constitution, right, Universi Dominici Gregis, there's a process that's happening, and it starts with the rite of acceptance, which already happened, because that's when we get the white smoke, because the Pope, the man that was elected, had to say yes.
And has to sign and have it certified.
Exactly. So isn't that, it's beautiful, right? We always talk about free will in the Catholic Church. Yes. He could say no, but this means that whoever we will see on the loggia has said yes to this. And as you can hear, the crowds are coming, and we see
the pontifical band there coming out, and the Swiss Guards, of course. There's always a traditional salute of the Vatican hymn or anthem to celebrate the occasion. It's part of the festivity of it, and we hear they're playing already and coming out there, all in full uniform.
Well, and it's special. It's special too because these last more than 2 weeks, we've had the Swiss Guards present for certain things, but now they have a Pope once again that they are protecting. That is their role. That is their mission, right? To be where the Pope is and to protect him. And so this is extra special because now we see them coming out again to the piazza because we will have a Pope.
Yes. I live with 21 other priests in a residence, so all of us work in the Curia. And we've been sharing at breakfast how hard it is in the morning when we're celebrating Mass, and there's always a prayer in the canon of the Mass for the Pope. And, we now have to skip over that. And it's like your tongue doesn't stop, So now we can pray once again for the Pope as well.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, our predecessor popes can pray for us as well.
Exactly.
Intercede in ways
that I'm sure of.
We hope and pray
for sure.
So again, the bands here will be coming in and playing the anthems, the hymns when the new Pope appears, just like the Urbi et Orbi on an Easter or Christmas or solemn occasions.
That's right.
And so it's to be expected at this time, and we probably have another, it's at least a half hour before the earliest. The new Pope will appear from the central balcony.
But also during this time too, there will be prayer too, and certainly the new Pope will be praying, but also the cardinals will be praying with him too.
And we will all be praying as well. Everyone in the square will be praying.
Yes, exactly.
Around the world, all of you watching and listening from home, we join in prayer as well for this moment.
We do indeed. You can be sure even the new Pope hears all this in the background because it's a lot of strong sound that's coming up there and then propagating up into the areas there in the buildings and just outside the loggia there as well. You can hear that. I know that from experience.
Right.
The sounds of the streets, the sounds of the square.
Well, and it must be a sign of. They must feel encouraged hearing the cheers, the music, because this is a big moment for anyone. And then to come out into the loggia and see thousands upon thousands of people. If public speaking is not your thing, that would be very intimidating. And so to hear the support of the band and the people clapping and cheering must be extra special for that person.
Absolutely, a huge encouragement as well. Apart from the weight of the office and accepting and realizing the challenge, the immense challenge that they'll be taking on and responsibility, but encouraged by what is the fanfare we're seeing and hearing in St. Peter's Square right now. And as I mentioned, the crowds are filtering in, go through their security check before that, but the square is slowly filling up there with people coming in last minute to be here. Of course, they're lucky they have a little time because we have about this almost 1 hour before the new Pope will appear. And so we see in the blue there the gendarmes, the Vatican gendarmes and the band they have there, and then of course the Swiss Guard in uniform there in position. So,
well, and just again behind the scenes, looking back behind all the process that's happening, I think is so interesting to think we're seeing the crowds waiting, cheering, trying to keep spirits up while they wait the hour or more until we know who the Pope is. And I think, as we're talking about, prayer is also a central part of this aspect as well. I mean, before the Pope comes out, we see the first ceremony, the greeting, the Te Deum, where in the Sistine Chapel, after being dressed and saying yes, the Pope goes back to the Sistine Chapel and he takes a seat on a chair and a ceremony begins. And it's introduced with a greeting from the senior cardinal of the Order of Bishops, and then they read a passage from the Gospel, which, as we talked about with Liz and also Dr. O'Donnell, I mean, it grounds the mission of the Pope, the office of the Pope in the Gospel, in the message that Christ gave to Peter, feed my sheep, tend to my sheep. So I don't know, it's a really special moment, I think, when you look behind what's happening right now as we wait for the Pope.
And speaking of the ground, please.
Just in the unbroken line of passing the authority and the responsibility of the papacy from Peter all the way on.
And now, going on the ground there in the square, we have Sister Nina Krankic, who's from Croatia and is with us there in the square, and she works here at Vatican News and is going to share us tell us more about her own experience there in the square. Sister Nina, can you hear us?
All of our listeners, to all who are following us online now. Pretty amazing. I just arrived here at the St. Peter's with my colleagues. We just rushed out of the building and we just arrived here. It's so many people already gathered here. There's the orchestra playing, as you probably can hear and see. The atmosphere is so getting warmed up, and it's incredible. We're going to take our place somewhere here among the people, and we're going to wait for that special moment that is going to happen very soon.
Sister Nina, you must have run out of the building there to get there in the square, because I mentioned the crowds coming in now there's got to be some bottleneck there, isn't there?
Yes, we ran out of the building. All the colleagues started screaming, "Let us out!" There was a white smoke, so we just ran out and ran through the crowd, and we're going now. We're here in front of St. Peter's, actually, so we have a pretty good position, so if we talk a little bit later, I can tell you more about what's going on. But you actually cannot arrive at the square now because there's so many people from all around the all parts of the home gathering here. So it's really hard to even enter the square at this moment. There's so many journalists, everybody's doing their and interviewing people all around. So pretty amazing to see.
So it must feel like a big party almost, I imagine, in some ways, doesn't it?
Now the Italians are coming in.
It's the biggest party that I was ever at, that's for sure. For sure.
And we can hear the bands there. We see the Italian Carabinieri band that's coming into the square as well. So I imagine it's adding to the festive atmosphere you're living there, isn't it?
It's very festive atmosphere, and even the Swiss guards are all here, and the music, the people, very festive, very, very beautiful. Something beautiful to see.
All right, Sister Nina, thanks for giving us that update there, and we look forward to connecting with you there again when possible. We know how it's a little tough with the cell signal there, given all the people communicating live on their cell phones and the networks there being a bit saturated. But thank you.
Yeah, and I hope to talk to you soon. And you can still make it, people. If you're somewhere around, if you're somewhere close, you can still make it. So try to get on the square and don't miss this special moment.
Wonderful.
In time. And if you're watching in today, don't stay with us and wait for that special moment that's following.
And Sister Nina, by the way, this is your first experience of this type, isn't it? Your first conclave, and
yes.
So it must be extra special for you.
Oh, amazing. You know what? But even seeing that live, it's something so special. And seeing that many people. As we were coming here from the dicastery from our building, I've actually seen people cry and screaming "Habemus Papa," and which was so touching. People running and crying, and you feel that it's like special moment in the history of the church and of the world. So it's something that it's just once in a lifetime. So I'm really grateful to be here now.
Wonderful. All righty, Sister Nina, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and we hope to touch base with you there shortly. Okay.
Thank you for calling me.
All right. In the meantime, good luck getting in the square there.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Well, and continuing, as we mentioned before, the atmosphere, but also what we're seeing. You see the bands, Father, as you mentioned, the Italians as well, coming up the stairs that we often saw the Pope Mobile drive up for general audiences. And shortly, we're not sure exactly when, but when the Pope comes out, there's a formula that is said in Latin, and for many of us, we might not have studied Latin in school. I mean, my Latin is quite rusty, so I don't know if maybe, Father, a bit more about what it's going to be said, and for those who might not know, what is the formula? What is said?
Well, it says the proto-deacon, and it's Cardinal Momberti is the proto-deacon right now, will come out and say, I have an announcement of great joy, and then he says, we have a pope, Habemus Papam. I saw some signs there and they didn't have the correct conjugation of papa, but that's okay. The fact is, the news is and it's almost universal language now in terms of communicating the fact that we now have a pope.
And then after that, he announces the name that he's taken.
Yes, in Latin.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you a funny story of that too. A friend of mine was in the square when Paul VI was elected, and he was standing. He's from the U.S. He was a student at the North American College, and no, it was when John Paul II was elected, and he was standing next to an Italian woman, and they announced that the Pope was from Polonia, and this Italian woman crossed herself and said, "Grazie a Dio da Bologna."
Da Bologna.
Thank God from Bologna. Yes. She didn't hear Polonia in Italian meaning Poland.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tricky. If you don't know Italian or Latin, it might be a bit confusing. But no, it's extra special, and as you mentioned, I mean, I remember watching with some of my colleagues here at the start of this week some of the compilations from the Habemus Papams that we have video or audio of, which is only in the last, just over 100 years that we have video, and it's been really interesting because whether you know Latin or not, you know that phrase and you know what it means, and so it's a big signal to a new chapter in the church.
And I'm thinking that the last announcement was by Cardinal Jean-Louis Touron, whom I worked with a great deal.
Oh, wow.
And he made that announcement, and it was so good. And he's gone home to heaven, but I'm sure he's now rejoicing once again tonight.
That's right. I remember him very well when he announced introduced Pope Francis, and I remember even hearing his name. I was wondering who, and then I looked it up very quickly because as always, it's a surprise.
Right.
It's a surprise, and
you don't know, because we have such a list of people, and as we've said throughout this entire Smoke Watch, that it's the Holy Spirit that guides the decision, and so we don't know till that moment.
Here we see a formation of the Italian military bands.
Yes. Wow.
Guardia Finanza, Carabinieri. And then of course the gendarmes, the Vatican Gendarmerie, their own band, and then we have the Swiss Guards, all in position there. We see the usually at a point after the Pope appears, so there'll be a mutual salute of both national anthems and hymns.
The retired
papal preacher.
Papal preacher, and also then there's
Cardinal Raniero canta la messa, looking at his phone there. We see
technology,
and then Capuchin Cardinal there,
and also Cardinal Sean from Boston.
Exactly. Exactly. So here we are. The bands are playing, and we have an introduction here to the Vatican anthem. Oh no, the Italian anthem. Sorry about that.
That's true. So the hymns, the songs will be going on until we hear that famous line "Abemus Papam" and we see the Pope come out on the balcony.
So we're hearing notes from the Italian national anthem, Fratelli d'Italia.
He must.
And we've just heard those, the Vatican hymn and then the Italian national anthem played, mutual salute between the two groups of bands. And now the mutual salute and greeting of both. This is just like when we see at Easter and at Christmas,
the Urbi et Orbi.
During the Urbi et Orbi, when the Pope gives his blessing to the city and to the world. And before that, his Christmas or Easter message. So the bands are lined up there as we await the curtains to be pulled back there from the central loggia of St. Peter's Basilica there.
And even though the Holy See is a separate country, it's important for Italy to be involved in this too, because he's also the Bishop of Rome. So it's his flock is in Rome as well.
Actually, just now taking off my headphones to hear some of the ambient sound, you could hear kind of the craziness that's going on outside. You could hear helicopters, ambulances, fire trucks, everything. And so, I mean, even at the end of Via Conciliazione, where we are, you can hear the excitement and the festivities that are happening outside.
Monsignor, I think some of that chimney smoke has gotten
to me, yes.
There's a lot of pollen in the air,
yeah,
so it's
definitely.
allergy time here as we head into summer. But what a stunning view there. We have the sun just going down behind the facade of St. Peter's. It's always stunning, when it comes time to sunset there with the facade facing east, but then when you're looking at the basilica and the sun going down behind it, it's always
so beautiful.
So beautiful, yeah.
But everybody's eyes are on this.
Yeah, everybody's looking up, waiting for the doors to open and then the white curtains to be pulled back.
Well, and there's actually a story about what's happening right now. Again, the Room of Tears, the Pope, the new Pope getting dressed, and we know that there are 3 sizes of the white cassocks because you don't know who's going to be elected, but you have to be prepared. And actually, one of our colleagues, Christopher Wells, who was on this morning actually on the Smoke Watch, was talking about Pope John the 23rd, and he was.
That's a let out. Yes.
And actually, since it didn't fit, they had to tie it like a medical garment.
Exactly.
And so it's a funny little anecdote to just remember that. I mean, no one knows, and so everyone's prepared. But that's what's going on right now. They're trying on the garments. They're seeing what's fitting.
And of course, they have different sizes available to start with, but sometimes they might need adjusting depending.
Exactly. We're all made in God's image and likeness in different sizes. Yeah. So there you go.
See all those flags representing the different nations present. Also, it is the Jubilee of Hope, and so we have pilgrims here for Jubilee events over these days as well. I think I read about 15,000 for currently in Rome just for the Jubilee themed events. For pilgrimages that were organized well ahead of time.
Well, and we're hearing from our producer, Francesco Merlo, that they're looking outside our building, and as I mentioned, there's helicopters, but they're blocking off the roads, and that's what Liz was mentioning too, you know, that people are stopping, and they're just trying to get to the square as fast as they can. So it's a moment of organized chaos a bit in the square and around the Vatican.
We have reports that there are people literally running to get into the square. And they will eventually, as they go through the checks and controls there. They do an extraordinary job of the crowd control as well, with these many people coming into St. Peter's Square and avoiding any potential problems or issues due to that. So.
Well, and that is, you have to think that, I mean, maybe everything has a purpose, right? Everything has a reason, because we have this time in between the white smoke and the Habemus Papam. Maybe also for everyone to get to the square. You know, it's a dual-edged sword. The new pope is being prepared and ready to go to the loggia, but it's also to let everyone who can get to the square to be there for that special moment.
And we're seeing it with our Vati drone footage here, as I'd like to call it. And you can see the square there. It's just wonderful. You can get a sense of the crowds, and then on the people kind of streaming in from the main avenue, Via della Conciliazione, and some of the side streets there.
Talking about the universality of the church, I just got a message from a UN official in Gaza, who's listening to this transmission, and so you could see how connected people are, and how grateful they are to be able to hear Vatican news as well.
Yeah, of course.
Well, we're grateful to have you here to say some nice, intelligent things for us.
I don't know.
As well as and give us some interesting input on all, and to share this experience. As we see the our drone footage there shows our Vati drone is showing the avenue there filling up with people, and as they come closer to the square, then they just go through a check there,
and all the flags are ready.
And Thaddeus, because since you've been, this is your third conclave in Rome.
In Rome, yes.
And so
I haven't been a conclave elsewhere.
No, but you've been in Rome.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But have you ever had the opportunity, because I know working here, we're always pretty much in here, but have you ever had the chance to run out to the square or see the excitement?
For Pope Benedict, I was up there on the colonnade there. If you're looking here on the footage here, you can see here on the left side there on that colonnade there where the statues are, on top of the Charlemagne wing of the colonnade. I was up there and able to just view from that position where all the photographers, videographers were, or most of them anyway, accredited, to see him come out and greet the crowds and give his blessing. And I remember, this is a strange thing, but after that event, going back into the Vatican and running into Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio.
Oh my gosh.
He was, this is this is long after the, probably about an hour after the blessing was given at the end of the, and I remember it distinctly because I knew the faces of all the cardinals, and so it was a.
Little did you know.
Little did I know. Little did I know. And then when there we see some of the cardinals there. There's Cardinal, I think that's Cardinal Wuerl, and we see, and then.
Cantalamessa,
and then
O'Malley.
The cardinal non-elector.
Yeah, exactly. They're over 80,
and
so
there's
they're non-electors.
Sister Petrina, the head of the Governatorato now.
And that's Archbishop Fisichella as well, I think.
And we see the secretary of the dicastery for communication there, Monsignor Lucho Ruiz, as well. Anyway.
Well, and so Was it? I mean, obviously it's very different being inside here, but the excitement is still pretty much the same, being on the braccio, the colonnade, and being
very
here.
much so, because you're seeing things up close, not only into the bells I was mentioning earlier that you hear very clearly and loudly, but then seeing from a unique angle, almost at below the level of the central loggia, but higher up from in the square. In 2013, then I remember I was down the street on the Conciliazione looking out the window at the crowds on Via della Conciliazione, and I could see the central loggia from which Pope Francis appeared then in 2013. So that was my other experience, per se, and a unique one at that. And now here in our studio here, right close to the action there.
Exactly.
It's a third privileged experience. And again, what's really... you really feel is the excitement of it, and the joy of having a new pope, but then also the expectation. Who's it going to be?
Right.